The filmmaker's purpose is to bring awareness to this entire industry and how it's deceiving people and the naivety of others who don't realize the cruelty behind the scenes of this money-making industry. The filmmaker is trying to argue against these inhumane and immoral methods that they practice. They want to bring attention to how holding orcas in captivity is dangerous and harmful. The orcas' quality of life is way worse than those of the living ones in the wild, contributing to a deep-rooted frustration which can ultimately put humans' lives in danger.
The filmmaker employs ethos to increase their validity. They had former trainers come and talk about their experiences and how it was so cruel and how they kept the orcas in captivity. The film also increases its validity by utilizing statistics, research reports, and autopsies to further support their argument in how holding orcas captive are dangerous. Despite a large part of their thesis based on anecdotes, they back up the evidence using experts.
There's this censorious, condemnatory, and logical tone through the use of evidence, use of statistics, and alternative facts. By using these cinematic techniques, it creates a very somber mood in which it portrays the hunters and SeaWorld company as selfish and evil.
So the filmmaker used previous commercials in a sardonic manner to show SeaWorld's deception in putting real-life footage of the capture and the actual horrific events, specifically focusing on the spilled blood that the orcas released, as well as the trainers themselves. They also used graphic footage of trainers actually getting hurt or killed, and they used music to create a very dramatic effect. And also, interestingly, they used a lack of music to underscore the speaker's emotions.
In the beginning, the problem was presented through a 911 call, rousing concern for the orca trainers. They then had interviews of the orca whale trainers as they discussed how at first their jobs seemed harmless and very friendly and joyful. As the documentary progresses, they include more and more testimonials from witnesses present during the orca whale attacks, in addition to trainers with personal connections to those who tragically lost their lives to the industry. As the film progresses, OSHA takes action against SeaWorld, and in the end, it's revealed that SeaWorld trainers must be on the opposite end of a gate when in the pool with the orca whales.
We hope you enjoy.
Oh my god.
They had aircraft, they had spotters, they had speedboats, they had bombs they were throwing in the water. They were lighting their bombs with acetylene torches in their boats and throwing them as fast as they could to herd the whales into coves.
By starting off the scene with live footage and a first-hand account, ethos is established, allowing the audience to view this problem as reality and not just something conjured up to incite meaningless controversy. Howard Garrett uses an anaphora when saying, "They had aircraft, they had spotters, they had speedboats, and they had bombs that they were throwing into the water." This shows how much control and power the humans had over the helpless orcas. The illustration of the adult without babies going east and the mothers with their young going west shows how intelligent they were to try to divert attention away from the babies, having experienced a similar situation before. This exemplifies their intelligence, which can relate to that of a human.
But the orcas had been caught before, and they knew what was going on, and they knew their young ones would be taken from them. So the adults without young went east into a cul-de-sac, and the boats followed them, thinking they were all going that way, while the mothers with babies went north.
The illustration of the adults without babies going east and the mothers with babies going west shows how intelligent they were to try to divert attention away from the babies, having experienced a similar situation before. This exemplifies their intelligence, which can relate to that of a human.
It places orca whales at a higher level of superiority than originally thought, which increases the importance of their well-being to the audience.
But the capture teams had aircraft, and they have to come up for air eventually, and when they did, the capture teams alerted the boats and said, "Oh no, they're going north, the ones with babies." So the speedboats caught them there and herded them in, and then they had fishing boats with seine nets that they would stretch across so none could leave, and then they could just pick out the young ones.
We are only after the little one. And the little one is, a big animal still. But I was told because of shipping costs, that's why they only take the little ones.
They had the young ones that they wanted in the corrals, so they dropped the seine nets, and all the others could have left, but they stayed.
We're there trying to get the young orca in the stretcher, and the whole family is out here 25 yards away, maybe, in a big line, and they're communicating back and forth.
After the catchers picked out the young ones and dropped the nets, the whole family remained using vocalizations to communicate to each other. This shows the loyalty and importance of family within these coves.
Well, you understand then what you're doing, you know. I lost it. I mean, I just started crying. I didn't stop working, but I, just couldn't handle it. And just like kidnapping a little kid away from her mother. Everybody's watching. What can you do? It's the worst thing I can think of. I can't think of anything worse than that.
John Crow uses a simile when he says, "It's like kidnapping a kid away from their mother." Kidnapping carries a negative connotation to show how it was not their place to interfere with the lives of the orcas and break their family apart. This establishes pathos because the audience is aware of what kidnapping is and understands the pain that comes with losing a loved one.
As you will see in the following clips, there is a utilization of scientific evidence and an appeal to logos to establish credibility behind their assertion that orcas are an intelligent species with their own array of traits that are very similar, if not more evolved, when compared to humans.
Each community has a completely different set of behaviors. Each has a complete repertoire of vocalizations with no overlap. You could call them languages. The scientific community is reluctant to say any other animal but humans uses languages, but there's every indication that they use languages.
As you can see in this clip, the director brings in Howard Garrett, a renowned orca researcher, to establish the scientific front of the intelligence of orcas. By citing a renowned orca researcher, the director inherently establishes a sense of ethos and credibility for their argument. Following this, he cites Lori Marino, an established neuroscientist, to further instill the sense of ethos to those who are watching the documentary.
The orca brain just screams out intelligence, awareness. We took this tremendous brain and we put it in a magnetic resonance imaging scanner. What we found was just astounding.
As you are going to hear in the following scene, the director uses a cinematic technique of inputting classical music behind Miss Lori Marino's voice to further establish a sense of credibility as well as a sense of knowledge and learning.
They've got a part of the brain that humans don't have. A part of their brain has extended out right adjacent to their limbic system. The system processes emotions. The safest inference would be these are animals that have highly elaborated emotional lives.
Most importantly, by the utilization of an appeal to logos and scientific evidence, the researchers are able to support their argument against the cruel treatment of orcas. For example, the citing of how orcas have a more evolved brain, with a part of their brain going adjacent to the limbic system a lot more when compared to humans, helps support their inference that orcas have highly elaborate emotional lives. In addition, this helps support that orcas have a greater and more complex sense of self and social bonding when compared to us humans.
It's becoming clear that dolphins and whales have a sense of self, a sense of social bonding that they've taken to another level, much stronger, much more complex than in other mammals, including humans. We look at mass strandings, the fact that they stand by each other. Everything about them is social.
Lastly, the director utilized two cinematic techniques in order to illustrate the drasticness and importance of his argument. For example, he had utilized the cinematic technique of visualization and inputting the real-life videos, such as of the mass strandings of the orcas and the orcas hunting the seal together, to further reinforce and recapitulate the fact that orcas have a higher level of social bonding when compared to us humans.
Nothing was ready. The venue wasn't ready. It wasn't ready for the orcas. It wasn't ready for a show. The owner of the park didn't want to lose revenue by shutting down the pools and repairing them. So for 3 years, the animals ate the pools, and for 3 years, the animals had problems with their teeth, with their stomachs. So that's the reason why these animals are enduring the endoscope procedures.
In this scene, they emphasize the severity of the poor treatment and the neglect of the well-being of the whales and the negative effects by invoking sadness in the audience.
Anywhere along the line, it could have been stopped because everyone knew it was a tragedy waiting to happen, but no one ever did anything about it. And in the end, it was the best trainer who lost his life.
In this next scene, there is a use of the conditional statement, in the end, it was the best trainer who lost his life. By stating this, Suzanne Ali, the former video supervisor, showed the viewers that if the best trainer was susceptible to this, then it could have happened to anybody and it wasn't the fault of the trainers.
Me sonó el teléfono, me habló Miguel Díaz, el supervisor, el jefe de Alex, y me dijo, no, Estefanía, Alex tuvo un incidente sin importancia con una orca, él está bien.
Ya vimos todo un entramado de ambulancia, estaba pues los representantes de la empresa.
Estaba el dueño con su director, con sus abogados, y lo que nos dijeron fue, no pudimos hacer más.
No pudimos hacer nada. ¿Y cómo?
This use of repetition reveals the anger and the feelings of despair of the trainer's fiance and the mother and how there was nothing they could do.
Me dicen que si quería pasar a verlo. Y fue tremendo, ¿no?
Y nos metieron en la sala donde estaba su cuerpo.
These tears really appeal to the audience's pathos and promote sympathy for the loss she has endured.
Solamente le di un fuerte abrazo en la cara, te quiero, te quiero. Y ya con la misma me sacaron de ahí y ya no supe.
Fue un accidente, pero pues yo no me quedé tranquila con eso. Al final el tiempo y la autopsia nos dio la razón. Y no fue un accidente, fue un ataque brutal. O sea, que fue un incidente o que fue un mal golpe, es mentira.
The switch from a somber and mournful tone to an angry tone reveals the manipulation SeaWorld uses to sugarcoat the atrocities behind their curtains.
Those were SeaWorld's whales. They were trained using SeaWorld's techniques. And their training was being supervised at the time of the fatal accident by one of their senior trainers from San Diego.
By having a whale researcher pronounce that the SeaWorld techniques didn't work either, it affirms the limitations humans have in controlling orcas. It pinpoints the flaws in how we really don't have the ability to control them.
For somebody to get up and say in a court of law they have no knowledge of the linkages between SeaWorld and this park in Tenerife is, well, either she doesn't know and is telling the truth, or it's just a bold-faced lie.
Definitely, the cinematic technique in which the filmmaker paused on the SeaWorld's head trainer with a smile on her face really aggravates the audience, in which it makes us feel as if she's carefree about all these deaths occurring. Furthermore, the failure to acknowledge the ties between SeaWorld and Lower Parque, despite the substantial evidence provided, creates this image of lying and deception of SeaWorld and this entire industry itself.